What's going on, advocates? Welcome back to another episode of the Black Mental Health Podcast. I'm your host, Reg. It seems like a reoccurring how do you say reoccurring thing where I'm inviting people who've been on the episode before or been on the podcast in the past. I think it's justice to get some of these individuals back because their story evolves as we grow older, as we get new knowledge, and as we gain new experiences. So if you listen to, I want to say I'm gonna get it actually episode 2. I'm believing it's episode 2 because he was one of my first guests when I first came out. Sorry, I'm playing the episode by accident. But without further ado, we'll get into all of those things that we talked about. Richard Goode. Uh is that what you're going by now? Like I think I asked before, but I forgot.
Man of many names. Yes, that's my government. I think at one point, Richard Alexander, which is my middle name, I was using that as my goal was to use that as my stage name with acting.
Mm.
I jumped between Richard Alexander and Richard Goode, but we can just use Rich for short right now, I guess.
There you go. At least the first name didn't change.
Right. That's gonna say.
Yes. I think looking at it, the role. I'm trying to make sure y'all get the episode. Yes, it was episode 1 actually in 2018. That was 4 years ago in July. Look how time fly, man.
Listen, I was going through my photo album on my computer today, looking at something like, yo, so much has happened. I was looking back like 2016, 2017. So much has happened since then to now. Like, it's crazy.
So what looking back on just the episode, just your life within the 4 years, what are some of the biggest changes or growth that you think you had, or some of the things that stood out to you since you've been on the podcast, that people that might be familiar with the first episode?
Biggest thing, I was living in Philly at the time. Now I live in Atlanta. That's the biggest stark difference, I guess the term would be. A little older. I got more hair on my face than my head now. Still, I think I was still in the pursuit of acting or the creative, some type of creative endeavor. I'm still doing that. I mean, one of the many things I'm doing out here now. I just got back in acting class. I am in therapy. I wasn't not in therapy then. I am now. My car wasn't paid off then. My car paid off now. um, learned a lot about myself in the last 4 years. We all, with the pandemic or since the pandemic started, I feel like we all have learned or been through different phases of ourselves, right? The initial, oh, this is fun. I don't know how to work, or I'm working too much, whatever it may be. Then you go through the little depressive state of like, damn, and for me, it was like, I'm down here by myself. I think that became a real realization once I realized this wasn't, the 2 to 6 week thing we thought this was going to be initially, right?
Mm.
We thought, all right, get a couple days you can work from home or whatever, and you'd be good. But no, this is life now, right? We learned how to live in a pandemic versus a pandemic coming and going.
Yeah, no, one of the things that you that stood out that you said was therapy. You actually told me that I actually visited you a few months ago. I don't even feel like it's been a few months ago. A few months ago. It felt like a few weeks, but and you were talking about like just getting into therapy. So when we first started talking about it, and I always say full disclaimer, those earlier episodes, I was not as seasoned, I'll say, in the world of mental health. I was freestyling around that time. So some of the questions that I wish I could have asked you then, I'm happy that I'm able to ask you now. So what made the change? What was the spark?
Getting older, working to unlearn some of the negative habits or just coping mechanisms or survival habits that we all take on, coming from the city, coming from Philly, coming from anywhere, inner city environment. You learn certain things to survive, whether it's from the actual community, or, it may be a familiar thing, right? You learn how to move through life in a certain way. And as we get older, and if you do some understand, you realize that everything we're taught does not serve us best as we get older, right? So those survival tactics are not useful when you're trying to thrive. So to answer your question more directly, I know there was some things about myself I wanted to fix and some questions I wanted answered, and I realized I couldn't do that alone.
I feel like there's a mental health movement right now with like our community. We used to say it was a stigma. I'm going on record now and saying it's not as much of a stigma as it is before. There's communities, there's little pockets of communities that you can, have these type of conversations. But one of the things, and I don't know if the episode is out already, but it will come out. We talked on the podcast. I talked to Vita, one of our friends from college days, and she talked about we talked about the that we are the generation where now healing is okay and going to therapy is okay, but we still have to deal with our parents and populations that we're teaching them. And it's like, I haven't even lived half of your life yet, or I'm only half of your life, so you trying to lay things on me that I haven't even been along live enough to live yet. So just talk about that now that you're unraveling things about yourself. Those are going to impact some of these relationships. And now I know my mom is more talking about mental health now and talking these things. So talk about that experience and how it's affecting family members.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that. It's funny that you say that about that unraveling piece. Like, I was in a Zoom earlier for work, and someone on the call mentioned that the baby boomers are also known as are called the me generation, right? Everything's about me, right? How's it affecting me? And we were discussing some issues around diversity, equity, and inclusion,
Mm.
and kind of what that means, right, for different organizations. I really can't get into too much, but what it means for different organizations. And to your point about finding ways to have conversations with uh, previous generations about mental health, right? Because we know the old adage, especially Black folks, pray about it, right? You feel like everything's crashing down around you, pray about it. You know, pray about it. What? That's hard work, and some of those things aren't the best when you're feeling like your world is crumbling around you, you know? And to your point, me and my mom have been having very open conversations around mental health, and I appreciate that. Even my pops, I mean, my pops, oh yeah, he he is who he is. So
Mm.
even him went from like when I told him I was about to start doing therapy, he was like, I knew he was crazy. But it wasn't really, I knew he was crazy, like, because we had the conversation like, oh, man, I'm glad you're doing that. I mean, because we all know we get the bag we get, and some of us just carry that bag throughout life. Some of us put it down and start unpacking it and seeing what's in this bag, right? So I think now I'm in a good space personally, also with my family, to discuss mental health, right? I'm very intentional on my mental health. I know, and I'm learning the mechanisms that helps me tick in the right way versus like I know what my triggers are when I'm, feeling like I'm having a bad day. I'm able to more quickly identify those triggers versus when I wasn't in therapy and I wasn't in a space of kind of figuring out what's going on up here.
Man, you said it clearly with that the triggers thing and just being able to, hey, don't give Chick-fil-A no free advertising. They gotta cut the check. So you either gotta drink that off camera, turn around. Chick-fil-A, if you want the sponsorship, he's drinking it. Don't give them any free sponsorship. But
all the sponsorship dollars in 2022.
actually, I've been meaning to get more potent about this because I keep getting in trouble. Please, if you want to support the podcast, please leave a donation. I'm starting to do that more to keep the podcast running, so I don't have to sell out to these big corporations. So, please donate $5, $1, whatever you can donate. That's a quick commercial break. We'll get back to that. But you talk about triggers, and I think just learning that is a process in itself because you don't even know what's setting you off when it's setting you off. You already know from our experience of how much of a live wire I used to be, and not even like I was the baddest guy, but just
Yeah, you
automatically snap. And one of the things that we didn't get to talk about, I'm glad. See, that's why I like how conversations flow.
Mhm.
The whole, I'm trying to say this with being respectful to like friends and relationships and things like that.
Yes.
There was a point in college where uh one of our close friends, that our roommates, there we go, so that way you get the conversation. One of our roommates was not particularly fond of other people, and I picked his side of like, all right, well, if you ain't messing with those guys, I'm not going to mess with those guys.
Right, right, right.
And you took the initiative, which as an adult grown man, I can understand that. But as a young gun, like, yo, no, you over there, stay over there, my G. Like, we ain't messing with those. Like, you a
Right.
fraud. Like, what you doing? Like, but now as a man, I understand nuance and things like that. What is that with men? Like, and mind you, I know it's probably a deeper level conversation, but what is that? Because I feel like it looks like disloyal in a sense, but it's also like, bruh, it's not that deep. So
Mhm.
just talk about that.
So time flies. There we are. That's funny. I was having a conversation a couple days ago about the danger of male pride, right? Now, even a couple months ago, I was like, oh, ego death, right? Kill your ego. But I also think men need to keep a little bit of ego to keep your drive, right? What it means to be a man, which is a definition that everybody has for themselves, but a man at the end of the day handles business. So that's what that is. So to your point, I think that our pride can be our greatest asset or our biggest downfall. I think, and we know we've seen pride get people killed, shot over nothing, over, whether it be women, money, or just, you're proud of like, oh, I don't want this to be said about me. So in order to not do that, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna act out like this. So back then we was young, right? We was young, we didn't really know. You felt it was, hey, either all in or you're not. And many times that's not how life works, right? We all know that life is really gray most times versus black and white.
And I was a very all in or all out
Yeah,
person.
really or what? You know what I mean? Like that's what that was. And that serves us at times, right? But in other times it harms us, So I think for us, it took time for us to all grow up, you know. Because while I was up on it back then for that situation, there's been times where my pride has gotten in the way of things I wanted to do. And I didn't recognize it was pride. I thought what I was standing on was what I was standing on, but it really wasn't nothing. There was no foundation behind what I was standing on. It was just, over the ideals that, truthfully, I don't even know if they were mine, right? It may be,
Ooh.
some family history stuff or just what you learn from your environment. Um, it's hard to work to get to know and learn why you tick the way you tick. It's not a comfortable thing, We spoke about this several times. Especially you as a father and a husband, like like you had to become uh, uh, an elevated version of yourself to be the best that you can be for yourself, of course, first, because we gotta make sure you pouring from a cup that's full, and also be there for your boys and your wife. You know what I mean? We can't go ahead. I'm sorry, brother.
No. I was gonna say to your point. I actually just had one of those moments this week where the old me was about to come out and get myself worked up and angry for no reason. Where it's like, yo, why do I gotta keep telling y'all to clean up? Why I gotta keep telling y'all to do this? And I was ready to snap. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just take some time to myself. I can focus on work. And then when I have a productive way to, kind of handle the situation, then I'll come back and do it. But at this point, I don't have enough tools in my tool belt in this moment to access the situation. And that took so much time to get to that point, bro.
So it took you time to get to that point, right? But think about it. 4 years ago, we met in 2009. You wouldn't have had none of that knowledge to be able to handle it that way. You would have snapped as our parents generation, or just young parents in general. Not every parent, but some parents are like, yo, I'm gonna get mad and loud, do what I say, because I said it versus do this. There are consequences still if you don't do this. But the reason why I want you to do this is because it's going to instill something in you that you're going to need once I'm dead and gone, you know?
To your
Like,
point, that we actually had this conversation last week about some of the things I'm dealing with my son, and learning him to, or teaching him to value certain things. And um I think uh for the most part it's like we're learning together, because he may not value them the way that I value them. And how do I communicate that message so that way he kind of takes that on point? And I think that's why community and support is so important, so you're not just in your own head. I think a lot of times our parents was like battling with things where they didn't share with nobody. They just, hey, this is the way I live life, and this is the way you gonna live it.
because that's how it's lived before me. And I'm doing, I'm doing this and doing that, trying to do the best I can do, right? I don't got time to sit down and unlearn and sitting down to talk to you. Hey, buddy, I need you to do this because of this. I got to make sure you do this so I can make sure I can cook you dinner and do this and get you to school in the morning. You know what I mean? So, I think it connects to a bigger issue of mental health for me. And this is just my opinion. I don't know diagnosis, but with mental health, I think most times people that are disenfranchised in some way and are from spaces and places that lack some of those critical resources don't have the time to worry about that self and do that self work. You know, my job, I won't mention the title on here, but um, we provide a service to the community, right? It helps to get them trained. So I work in workforce development, and we work to get them trained and to kind of get them upskilled to be able to begin work in the construction industry. But there's so many different barriers to entry for them. They got to worry about they can, because this program is not offering you any money, but a hope of, hey, a better tomorrow. Can you support yourself a month without working a job?
Mm.
You got to be somewhere, 7 to 5. Can you find somebody to watch your children? Do you have transportation? Some of these things are inequalities that, certain parts of our culture that's not recognized. They don't have to, right? It's a willful ignorance, right? They move in a way of like, oh, I can never understand how a person can be so much in lack that they can't even try to better their lives.
Mm.
You have to deal with it today versus like, oh, I can't see a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month down the line. I got to do my right now, my next hour. And in my next hour, I got to find some way to get some food in my stomach, in my child's stomach, and a roof over the head. You know what I mean?
I think that's the system that we live in, as like a capitalistic. Mind you, now I get to witness how the pressures of lives when you're not complicit to this capitalistic system. Like if you're not benefiting from this system, you're losing. Like you're losing like completely. Like where they're rushing you out hospitals, that you got to make doctor's appointment, but you can't take off from work because you need to pay your bills. And it's so many different barriers to why we struggle the way we struggle. And I think I talked to you about it maybe within the last 2 years or 3 years, where I had a conversation with an organization, and I won't say their name because it's going to come out when this neither comes out. Um, they wanted me to take the black out of mental health. Like, hey, mental health is mental health. Like depression, anxiety, suicide, all these different things looks the same in everybody. Like, don't talk about like it. You don't have to make it specifically about black. Of course, it was a predominantly white organization. But people don't see the nuance within certain things. But the crazy part, and that's not to offend anybody, they had a LGBTQ plus, like they seen the differences in that. And I think when you don't experience certain things, you just feel like, hey, that doesn't apply, let it fly. Like it's somebody else's problem.
Right? Like if you don't, there's so many things that are connecting to some of the work I'm doing right now. The thing is, you cannot see an example of you in an issue or a problem. You won't really be able to identify with it fully, right? Some folks are able to, okay, I can see how this community may need help. But there's nothing like seeing yourself in something and saying, hey, that's me. I want to help that. I want to be able to, like when you said, you know, the idea of taking Black out of mental health, I immediately thought of Black Twitter, right? So, you know, they say Black folks made Twitter. You know, Twitter does not move without Black people. I think same for a lot of things we do, whether it's music, the arts. I think mental health in the way of the the uh, the baggage that Black folks carry with them adds even another layer to mental health, right? Like we discussed a little bit earlier, whether it's a lack of socioeconomic resources. Um, you can't deal with what make you happy when you got to deal with how to survive.
Mm.
You know, like I think that's something that, you know, we all can connect with or know someone who has been this close to cracking and or this close to being homeless or whatever case may be, and they can't deal with, I'm not feeling great today. How am I going to make it to tomorrow? You know what I mean? Like I go back to that because so many people are not able to deal with self because they're dealing with their reality too much, you know?
So what do you think changed now then? Because I feel like some of our circumstances are still the same, but now there's an awakening around but the circumstances are still the same. The poverty line, nothing budged too much. Like, what do you think the difference is now and why it's such a change now?
I would say social media. I can say it seems like there's been an increase of awareness of whether it's subsidized services and or, you know, I know different companies are recognizing the importance of mental health now, right? So they may be providing some type of benefits. Some folks realize that mental health is a life and death thing, right? And some folks are like, yo, either I get this piece together or I die. So they tap into the fact that, yo, I need to figure out what's going on with me so I'm not running down my community, right? Whether that's from a physical sense or just a mental sense, you know?
One of the things we talked about recently was, and I'm still currently reading it, as Will Smith book. And
I love that
I,
book, man.
no, it is. It's probably one of, and mind you, I'm probably looking at it from a different lens because I'm listening to it for the quality, how much you can hear, how much effort. It kind of challenged me because I still haven't done an audio book yet for my book, and I'm like, man, I think I want to like take it to the next level. He has a nice audio experience with his book. I'm in the part where he's playing Ali, like he learned how to play Ali.
Yes.
My question to you is, there was a meme. Actually, let me see if I could pull it up so that way you can reference it right on the point. But there was a meme that was going around that when men express like their mental health, it's more people laugh at. There you go. So you probably seen that.
Yeah, it's like it was I think Tyrese,
Yeah.
somebody else.
And some people, and mind you, I'm not even going to give that just to the women and men too, where it's just a laugh grain. So if you're watching on YouTube, I got it pulled up so you can kind of see it and get a thoughts. If you listen, and it was Tyrese, Kanye, Will Smith, and when they were on TV and or different moments in their careers where they kind of look like that. I actually want to take it back to Will Smith more than Tyrese and Kanye, but how he is being a vulnerable person and the world is kind of criticizing. And if I'm being honest, I'm still trying to figure out. I'm like, yo, Will, you took the Superman cape off and now you're not Will, you're just like Will. And now it kind of like I don't want to say it diminished it, but it just changed my viewpoint. I'm still struggling with it. It's like, yo, that's Will Smith though. So just like, what does this post do for you? What are your experience or what are your thoughts?
Um it's funny. So like I'm a big fan of Will Smith and I watch a lot of YouTube videos, things of that sort. And I know during his press run for his book, he did an interview with Hoda, I think her name is, from one of the morning shows. And the conversation was just a very authentic, vulnerable conversation. And he spoke to the point of like, that's what real conversation is, right? So right now, the example of this is you and I. I mean, we've known each other 10 plus years now, but like we're able to have very open and vulnerable conversations, right? Everybody's not able to have these.
I'm realizing that.
But that's literally what it is, right? The idea of taking the Superman cape off, depending whoever who you are, taking the cape off and being able to be present and be open without fear of judgment. That's where real growth comes from. That's where you're able to unlock some things about yourself that you may not even know. Because many times we're always, we're holding up things or, holding things close to the chest. Be seen as weak, and they're too vulnerable, right? Or too emotional. When you're able to have these type of conversations, don't cry, brother. When you're able to have these type of conversations, we get to a real space of growth. Again, I think for me, I battle with this idea of being present, right? Like being here. Mm. I'm trying to stop thoughts of 10 days ago and 10 days ahead, right? So for me, one of the things I'm learning is the importance about being present is you get real interested in where you're at right now. And, and I learned this in acting class, to be interesting, you got to be interested, right? So I need to be interested in the conversation, meaning I need to be present so that I'm very sure that we're having an open and honest and vulnerable conversation, right. Because we, right now, we got people's attention right now. So I want to make sure I'm using and gifting them something with any type of knowledge and game I got. I want to get to y'all and, vice versa. I think it's important to, even if it's hard, and it's very hard sometimes to be open,
I think it go back to what you said though with the pride thing and the ego, and again trying to be respectful of like relationships and things like that. There was one conversation we had recently where you like, yo, for lack of a better term, like I ain't no punk, like I ain't no girl, like, and that was a moment of you being vulnerable. That situation, we don't got to talk about the situation, but that is inside you can ruin like everything. And even with that situation, I'm like, I don't know if I would react it the same way. Like it's still in me to react another way. So I don't know what that is.
Because that's in us, right? That very deep, innate, animalistic attack mode, right? It's a pride thing, but it's also attack mode. Like, and it takes a second. It took me a second to be like, yo. I don't know if you ever saw the video of a little girl, like this like weightlifter, he breaks the egg on his arm, and the little girl does it and just, I'm built different. Like literally that type of energy comes to me. Very short of who you are. With that pride is very life and death, right? It's very like, I'm in my decision. I don't give a, what I'm saying, what happens. I mean, I don't want to lose the monetization. We're taking my hands right now.
Yes.
I was drinking, but yeah, I don't because it's so,
it's fragile.
That's life, and that's how quick life can happen. It's not my cloth I'm cut from, bro. We ain't moving like that at all. Ain't no big bad guy. That's just nature of what it is, because it is what it is. But yeah, man, I think growth and learning about yourself, learning what the triggers are, back to that, because unless evolved, me would probably react differently. I think again, given, even it's hard, it's very hard for some people. Like, I'm not going to overgeneralize that everybody can do this, but like what I do in the morning, bro, now I wake up, first thing I do when I wake up, I say 3 things I'm grateful for. And it helps me kind of center in that particular moment, kind of set my base for the day. It may come up, but when I wake up, 3 things I'm grateful for. And then I'll pray. I'll speak some things to God, the universe, or people believe in, and kind of, set my intention for the day. Because it's so many other things, people are all battling with the same things.
Mm.
You know, and people don't have the resolve or the patience to, you know, to give themselves a second or two to think before they react.
Man, meditation helped a lot with me with that. I found myself breathing techniques. I think they call it the triangle breath, the breathe in, counting to four, hold it for 4 seconds, and then blow out 4 seconds. That has helped me in so many situations because it gave me whatever that split second was or however long that is, it gave me the time to think about the situation. And anytime I'm overwhelmed and I'm feeling like I don't know the answer to something, and I don't know what I'm about to do, that always helps, is just to take that time to gather your thoughts.
Yeah, I've done that technique late last year. Um, I was in acting class and we had a day we just did meditation type stuff, learned about breathing work, and it was connected to an emotional response thing. But that that for me, that breathing technique allows you to feel your body. You know, we know we're in our bodies, right? But very rarely do you realize that you exist in your body,
Mm.
right? Being present, realizing like, yo, I'm here. Like had an old head hit me in the gym last week, and you know, he was giving some game to me, and he was saying like, just, you know, get home, sit on the couch, and you know, say your name and say, I exist, you know, and he said, try that for a minute, try that for 2 minutes. Any other thought that comes in your head, bounce it out, right? Because he said that's really what the idea of yoga is getting to know your body, right? Realizing that you're in your body. And the fact that we look at the idea, not to get too deep, but the fact that we exist in this universe is beautiful. Like, you know, Gary V always says, you could have been a bus.
It's
Could have
true.
been a bus, but we not. You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
We have able body and sound mind, bro. And I always feel those two things, we can build and create anything you want to build and create. You know, as long as we got our body, you know, that's the two tools that nobody can take from us. You know.
One of the things you said that always stuck out was the not dying full of potential.
Mhm.
Um, I want you to speak to more towards that, how you view it now, because it might have grown since then, and how you look at it, which I think it's probably hasn't, because it's your cornerstone of like what it means and what it still means. Um, but the reason why I brought that up was to this year was the first year that I didn't come up with any goals. And the reason why I didn't come up with any goals for the year, because how my trajectory of of my career has planned out or has shown, none
Mhm.
of the stuff that I planned for last year went the way that I thought. Not for bad, for good. Like you do things and they introduce you to newer things, and then it just throws the whole playbook out. So now what I've been focused on is just getting 1% better every day. Because at the end of the year, that, and I forgot who I got that from, but at the end of the year, you get, that's a 365. I think that's great growth.
Great.
that
Doing numbers. I
that
think,
Go ahead.
like to your point, like, you know, they say, they're not. I'm not religious at all. I believe in God. I think the idea of, they say, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans, right? But it's like, I look at that, right? I'm like, yo, years ago, I never imagined moving to Atlanta and shit, on the real, being able to survive. You know what I mean? Figuring it out day by day, right? You know, get a job and you get somewhere to stay, and you know, you pay your bills, and like, you're trying your best every day, right? You evolve, and you know, I always say, you know, when I moved here, I'm like, all right, so I need to get my feet on the ground. And then you can kind of build your way up. I think, um, you know, we're trying to figure it out. I think the idea, I still believe in the idea of, you know, not dying full of potential, but I listened to a podcast the other day talking about people do the people do the best they can do up to their potential, right? And then you have to become something else, and then your potential grows, right? Sometimes if you surpass your potential, that means you're kind of done with that task or that portion, right? So what's the next goal? What's the next thing? I feel like that's an ever evolving thing, because you and our potential at 20 is not our potential at 30.
That's a fact.
You know, I think, but to answer your question more directly, because you know I can talk around the block. Um, I think our potential is something that's forever growing. So I think that target or that that bullseye is something that's forever changing. So I think we grow to whatever our potential is now, and then we're going to grow some more to the next level of our potential. So for me now, I got I do have a couple goals for the year, but it's more so about focus on falling in love with the work, right? I think me and Vita probably talked about this before, the idea of falling in love with the work versus the result. The result is simply a result of the work that's done, right? Mm-hmm. Not, you don't, I mean, you got to focus on the day, doing, your 100% every day. Like you said, end of the year, you pick your head up. I'm 365% better than I was on top of the year, and that's a damn good goal to have.
Whatever field that you in, and mind you, like I told, and when I was in college the last time, I was no plan on going back to school, none whatsoever, no plan on going back to school, but just one door opened another, and then another opened another, and it's like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to school, and now I'm not even in the door that got me into school anymore. Like
we outgrow our potential, right? You grew as much as you can grow in that space, right? The whole thing about what was it? Is it a shark or some animal? I think it's a shark, right? It can grow a certain amount in a fish tank.
Yeah.
But in the ocean, that motherfucker can grow.
Yeah.
So we outgrow our tanks, right? That's it. You outgrew that tank. Now you're in the ocean.
So now I'm glad you brought that up on an earlier podcast this year. I was talking about, speaking of the part of outgrowing tanks. Mm-hmm. I'm in this phase. I don't want to say I'm in this phase. I recognize that once you outgrow a certain environment, once you go, it's harder for you to be comfortable in that same environment again. So I think about when you go in certain poverty-stricken areas in Philly, and you see how bad it is, and you want everybody to be in panic mode with you, like, yo, the world doesn't look like this, like, and we need to, like,
not the norm.
Yes, but it became normalized at some point, and you don't want to come back. It's such a fine line, like, and me and I'll say my wife, but me and Lisa discussed this earlier this year about the fine line between broke and bougie. Like, what's considered bougie now? You know what I mean? Because once you're not broke no more, once you don't have to worry about your Maslow hierarchy, your needs, that bottom level, now you can kind of worry about the other stuff.
You break that down for the good people again. They might need that, brother.
Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up, but just talk about that once you heal from certain things, and when you outgrow your environment, and how it starts to impact you as you like move forward in life.
So I think it's funny because a lot of, like, when you were down here a couple months ago, we spoke about just that. You walk in the apartment and say, "Yo, I'm proud of you." And for me, you always feel like you want more and want to do this and want that, right? But you got to be the idea back to being present and being grateful where you at, and knowing that there's more out there for you to get, right? So for me, it goes from, like, at one point we're in survival mode. I gotta eat. And then hopefully you switch to thrive mode, right? So think, how can I eat for a year? How can I eat for a decade? How can I eat for the rest of my life? It goes from how can I get a meal today to how can I, not only, create the food source for my family, but also, my friends for decades to come, right? So I think, to your point of going back home, right? For me, every time I go back to Philly, I feel it's a little different. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little different. I see people hungry. Like, hungry, I'm taking the food off your plate hungry. Like, I think the explosion of violence that's happening in Philly can be directly linked to limiting the resources.
Right.
Folks are starving, and the community is not taking care of the community anymore. I need to eat, so I'm taking your plate. And that I think that connects to a deeper issue of lack of self-love or just awareness, right? Like we talked about earlier, with the organization that did not want the focus to be on Black and mental health. You go back to that idea, the fact that they didn't see themselves in that, so they couldn't connect with it. I feel like that's what's leading to a lot of violence, right? With a lot of people in the world right now. If I don't love myself, I can't love you. So that means I have no issue with ending your life or harming you or taking from you because I don't love me. So why the fuck would I give a fuck about you? Because I don't love me. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
you summed it up. That's why I took the picture down, but it just in case I clip that part up. Like I gotta make sure they get the full screen of that.
real. I think that's something that I don't know what the magic potion or pill or bullet is to help with more self-love. I think, you know what I mean, that's hard. I don't know if it's that conversation for today or 10 years from now, right? Like, but I think if you get to a space of like, I always say one thing I like hearing about from old heads back in the days, like, yo, how the community used to look out for one another. You know what I mean? And it so happens in pockets, but everything is so like social media and a lot of shit, everything is so fast and everybody wants this and that. I think we're losing like that love aspect, you know what I mean, in a real way. Not even a romantic sense, just the fact that like, yo, love thy neighbor, like look out for your folks. And your folks ain't always your family, you know what I mean? I feel like we ain't doing that in mass as much, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, to your point, and I'll pull it back up so that way we don't talk without reference. So if those of you who are listening, and if you're on the YouTube, you get to see it, but the bottom level of Maslow hierarchy of needs is the physiological needs, which is air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. But those are just the bases. So if you don't got food, you don't got shelter, bro. It was so many times where I didn't even know friends was considered homeless. And one friend that I'm talking about where it's like, yo, that's considered homeless. This dude been homeless for like 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't consider that homeless like as a thing, but as that you need these things to survive. And let me see. Let me go to the key takeaways of Maslow hierarchy of needs. So according to thoughtscode.com, Maslow hierarchy of needs is, according to Maslow, we have five category of needs: physiological, safety, love, esteem, and self-actualization. In his theory, higher needs in the hierarchy begin to emerge when people feel they have sufficiently satisfied the previous needs. And although later research does not fully support all of Maslow's theory, his research has impact other psychologists and contributed to the field of positive psychology. You see where I'm at now with it, Rich.
Mhm.
So I'm up in the game of what I get. So the bottom level is the physiological level needs. Safety needs is personal security is the next level, which is personal security, employment, resources, health, and property. You see, we're already lacking these two right here, the very foundation. The next one is love and belonging, which is friendships, intimacy, family, and sense of connection. The one above that is esteem, which is respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength, and freedom. And the last or top layer of it is self-actualization, which is the desire to become the most that one can be. Reaction, thoughts? What do you think about this list, Rich?
I agree with that. I think, you know, it goes back to that for me, the idea of a survival mode versus the thrive mode. If I'm focused with surviving, I'm not worried about my freedom. You go to a steam level, I'm not worried about my respect, my self-esteem, my status. I'm
Mhm.
trying to survive. You know, once I get, you know, I feel like I'm looking at the list. I feel like the first two, you know, are needed prior to anything else, right? You need to be able to eat and drink and have shelter or you'll die, right? Safety, you know, of course, you know, you want to have that um, personal safety and, you know, be able to have agency over our body and feel safe in our body and safe in our communities. Um, you know, many times I think love, um, sometimes I feel like sometimes we connect love to a safety need versus it being his own thing,
Mm.
right? We look at love, you know, as we tie
Security.
it, tie it into personal security,
Yeah.
own separate thing, you know. Um, and get to the end goal, right, of self actualization, right? Desire to become the most that one can be.
It's not dying on that potential.
Right. You're right. That's, you and whatever that potential growth should be, right? Whatever, the goal is to get out the fish tank and get into the ocean, right? That's
Mhm.
kind of the goal. But many of us never get out that fish tank.
Ooh.
So,
No, that was it. We don't even get a chance to experience like what is out, man. And that's where, going back to what led to all this, where I was saying, where you start to over look how I told you I became a pro, Rich. Look how we circle back to that, where you look at that fish tank once you outgrow it and you go into these new aspects, you don't even realize that like the fish tank was small in the first place. Like you
right.
don't even realize that until you look back on it. And now you want to get everybody out the fish tank, but they have to go through their own process and
Mm.
an own journey. You can't do nothing but just be there until they figure it out.
What's the old adage, right? A giraffe never tells an ant that there's water over there, right? Because to a giraffe, you see the water. To an ant, you see grass and shit, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's perspective, right? So until people go through the evolution, whether it's mental evolution or doing that self-work, you can only, we'll look at it in any capacity, right? We tell a girl or guy to get out of that toxic relationship, but I love them. Cool. We can give advice till we blue in the face. Until a person is ready to take action, your word is invalid. You know what I mean? So I think it's until we all, we all fall short. It's life. You're trying to do shit the best we fucking can.
Right.
We are doing the best with the tools we were given and the tools we found along the way. You know what I mean? Like, we all doing our best.
One of the things that I didn't get a chance to say, but I started to take the podcast a little bit more serious, not even a little bit more. The impact started to reach to me. Somebody just reached out to me the other day, and I just want to get your reaction to it. They reached out and said, and mind you, if y'all listen to this, and brother, I want to shout you out because I didn't know if this was like a scam or something. And it said, and I wish I could put it up, but I want to make sure the people's names is safe. Hi, my boyfriend is doing time right now, and he told me that he listened to your podcast and he wants to know if he can write you.
Mm.
Bro, when I said that,
Mm.
the first thing was this some scam, like some out of the norm type stuff. But
Right.
as I started to talk to the individual, and shout out to you, bro, whoever you are, as I talked to them, and I was like, oh, this is real. Like this is a real thing. It just warmed my heart, and I felt a different level of responsibility. And this was over the weekend. This was like 3 days ago.
Mm.
And I felt a different level of responsibility, but I didn't even know they get to listen to podcasting, Joe.
Yeah, they got like a couple things they can do now. You know what I mean? Well, first off, let's definitely give some love to that brother. You know what I mean? Hey, fam, like just hey, take it day by day, bro. Like, people out here care about you, obviously. You know what I mean? Your woman's writing in to someone you listen to and someone you're impacted by. So you got support out here, brother. But yeah, man, like many times, when we're giving examples of you seeing the work that you're doing and how important it is, when you start just using your kitchen, bro. You know what I mean? Like using your kitchen. You know what I mean? Different area, different things, you had one baby at the time,
Yes.
and you can see in your babies and your wife sees that, right? And outwardly your community sees the impact that you're having, right? That's something that's going to impact that brother because that's changing something in him. You know what I mean? Like you had to become more than you were then so that you can have the impact that you're having now, right? You had to grow to become this version of you. And hopefully that, this brother's gonna grow, listen to this and listen to your podcast of past and the ones that's coming down the line. I think even just taking that step, bro, to tap into something else other than the norm or the noise. You know what I mean? Like that's hard, bro. That's hard. Like to not it's it's so hard not to just cut on the radio when you're in the car versus listen to an audiobook or listen
Mm-hmm.
to a podcast. You know what I mean? Because like it's easy. You want to turn up. It's nice outside. You want to listen to some. You know what I mean? But listen, like I'm listening to I'm finishing up Matthew McConaughey's book right now.
Mm.
Interesting book, interesting guy. I mean, very interesting person. But like, I love learning from people that's a little bit older than me
Mm-hmm.
because they, some of their achievements and pitfalls I don't have to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Listening, I mean, I always say that's why you got two ears and one mouth. You're supposed to listen twice as much as you speak, right?
Right.
So, yeah, you definitely want to get a little brother again, and I'm proud of you, bro. Like, I mean, I'm proud of you, dog. Like, I've seen this from the beginning. Like, it's grown and it will continue to grow because um, this is a part of you in a very authentic way, right? You're doing something that's bigger than yourself, and you're seeing the fruits of that labor. So yeah.
No, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the young lady. I don't know what age bracket, but I appreciate the young lady for writing in. And I appreciate all the brothers that's locked down. And if more people write me and want the address, I don't even know how she found me. My address is not out there. She actually asked me for my address, so I had to send her the BMH corporate, the BMH PO box, because again, I didn't know if it was real or not. But
Okay, yeah.
I will get the information. So as it starts to become real, like I will have a PO box so just the brothers can write, and we
Right.
can kind of, that could be like a segment on here and just talking about the brothers and some of the things that they're going through. So please
Sisters too.
reach
I'm
out.
not sure if you want to talk to the sisters as well, but I mean, this is your show, brother. But I definitely make sure you take, who you need to tap in with. But I definitely it's funny. I'm pretty sure when you started this podcast, you didn't think that your reach would be that to focus on some real ass issues right now. You know what I mean?
Bro, it's sort of, and we don't have to go into it because I don't want to hold too much of the time, but it's sort of like what Joe Rogan is. Like he has grown so big where it's like political. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of afraid of that. I even see the ball. Like I see the where I can go with it. Where
Yeah.
even with all of these podcasts that like popped up, I'm like, they're not tapping into this. And I know like this, I can tap into it. But I'm like, do I want to get that big? And Lisa always texts me like, yo, what are you? I feel like you should be way bigger than what you are, but I think you probably self-sabotage on purpose because you may be afraid of success.
Scary, right? I listen. I was talking to you about this recently. I was talking to somebody about this. The idea of self sabotage, right? I literally battle with the idea of being present and not self sabotaging because I know you feel it. You feel it deep down here what you can be, and you see what you can do and be. It's scary. Success is fucking scary.
Mm-hmm.
But even the idea of success is scary. But what I'm trying to convince myself is the idea of staying where the fuck we're at is scarier. You know what I mean? Because the responsibility that we have within us, the people you don't even know yet are dependent on you, right? So that's the thing, right? You got to pick what's the better of both options, right? To go forth where it can be scary, but you might be able to help somebody, or
Mm-hmm.
stay stagnant where you at and help nobody and don't become the best version that you need to become for yourself. You know,
What's that top level of Maslow hierarchy of needs?
bro. Listen, it's real, man. Like the idea to become more than what we currently are, I think is the goal of life, right? To be more than you presently are.
Mm.
It's heavy, but it's real. Like, I think through all the doubt and this, it's probably the most vulnerable I ever got on the podcast, right? The idea of like, I need to be held accountable to not self-sabotage.
Ooh, that
You
might be
know,
the title.
like that's hey, but that's real. I mean, and I think we all, whether it's per groups, whatever case may be, we all need people in our life that can speak power and life into us when we can't, like,
It's nothing like having your superheroes telling you got superpowers.
hey, talk about it, brother. That's it.
I see the way it light up in my son with certain things where he self doubts me, and it's like I feel like even within myself, if I had that
Mhm.
present father figure, that'd be like, no, so you got this, you only gonna do that. Like I think you could do this,
Right.
and it's like, wait, you believe in that?
I listened to a podcast earlier today. It was talking about the idea of as children, we think we can become and do everything. We spoke about this on the phone a little earlier, right? Prior to the call. we know in our young baby bodies, we know that we can become any and everything we think we can want to become. It's until life and those who did not make it and place their fears, whether from a place of like actual fear or where they feel is misplaced love, they'll place their fears within you, and that begins to grow like a weed. And then you say, hey, well, you're right. I probably can't become that because that's not realistic. Recreate was real, bro.
And it's not realistic in the environment that you're in. Like if you don't got nobody around you and surrounding you that has did X, Y, and Z, that is it creates your limits and beliefs.
Right. And that's not like I know you. I don't know everybody. I know you.
Mm-hmm.
I know we spoke about Vita earlier. I know Vita. I know you, Vita, and I have gifts within us that the world needs. Right. So it's our responsibility to give that, especially y'all too. I look to y'all, and y'all both know this. I look to y'all in terms of inspiration when I'm feeling down. You know what I mean? Things y'all have done, things, you know, that pushed me, inspired me to become the best version of myself. I think we're doing a great disservice by not becoming the best versions and giving all our gifts to the world, you know?
I call Vita my inspirational sparring partner. Like
Yeah.
anytime I need, like, oh, you doing that? All right. Well, and that has worked to my benefit. People be looking at me sometimes like, yo, you doing great thing. I'm creating, and I learned that from like the great entrepreneurs. I create, you know that I create enemies within people that I have no enemy towards them, but I need a competitor to do better.
Yeah. Something you need something or somebody to fuel you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've done that. I've done that. Example, me and Brill, Jim, on the watch, we compete.
I don't even put my watch on messing with y'all.
Hey, put your watch on, brother. Come on, let's have those calories, baby. But like even that, you know, it's a family thing, but also like, yo, you doing this, or I can do this. You know what I mean? You're pushing. That's what you want. You want your tribe to push you to be the best version of you.
Hey, that's toxic masculinity when it works in your favor.
Okay.
That's when the ego work in your favor.
Yeah, when ego, some of the rare times the ego works in your favor, you know, it's working out, I guess. You know, and trying to better yourself. I think, yeah, man, you know, is looking at that watch like, oh, he did that. Oh, I gotta go and get it in. Like, I'm tired. Oh well, like nobody cares. Tired, bro. You let him win on his watch. Like, no, like,
my last question before I let you go is I'm trying to do a better job at separating mental illness, mental wellness, mental health, because I think there's like with everyone talking about it, there's a little bit of like, you know, meshing of the definition. So I'll leave off for you. What does mental wellness mean to you?
Mental wellness means to me being able to recognize our triggers and doing the work to create a healthier mind.
And that is how we'll end the show. So on that note, please go subscribe, like, share, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, please. I'm trying to get those Apple Podcast reviews up. So please leave a review on there. If you don't know how to leave a review, it's on my website, reginaldahoward.com. But yeah, man, please, I thank you for coming on, brother. Thank you for gracing the mic again.
Proud of you, dog. You know what I mean? Proud of you again, man.
Nah, I appreciate it. And remember that this platform has never been about being a replacement to therapy. It's an alternative place where people share therapeutic stories. Thank you for listening.
Peace.